Welcome to the Radiate Health and Wellness podcast. I'm your host, Christine D. Ross, and I am excited to introduce today's guest, Natalia. She's a breath coach whose journey was shaped by caring for others and her own healing experience with cancer. Natalia has incorporated healing practices from around the world, combining ancient healing practices with modern insights. She uses her certified skills in Reiki, yoga, and sound healing and breathwork to guide others on their quest for self-healing and resilience. So join us as we explore the transformative power of breathwork with Natalia. Natalia, I'd like to just thank you for coming on today and being willing to share who you are and what you do and just send a message out to the world. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, where do I begin? I'm a mom, first and foremost. Got a 13-year-old daughter, just started 8th grade, and a 4-year-old boy. And going through those emotions of like, man, this is the last year of preschool. Or he's starting preschool in 3 weeks. And I'm like, oh, what is time? Where does time go? Where I'm at right now is like mom mode. It's the week of starting school. And of course, kids are typically our greatest passion and purpose. So I love being a mom, and through this pathway of breath work, I've done, I guess, a little history of me. I've studied all sorts of different healing modalities and been in higher conscious trainings and education, life mastery. Every time I find something new, I've always been a seeker of truth. It's like, oh, wow. And this resonates and this is truth. And oh, wow. And so I've just come to know myself, and in reflection from others, it's clear I'm a seeker of truth. And from a really young age, I grew up in the LDS church, and that's where the envelope and my first hero's journey really began, was back when I was 14. But actually one of my siblings who left the church a couple years was like, Natalia, you started having questions and wanting more information at 10 when he was ordained a deacon. And I was like, why do men only have these priesthood, these healing powers? I feel this, I feel the spirit in the mountains. I feel the spirit in church. What is this infinite intelligence within me? And obviously I didn't have words like that when I was 10. However, when I was 14, it was definitively I feel I resonate with some of what is true for me about this religion, this container. But then from there, it was just this rabbit hole of okay, now I'm studying religions. And then now I'm studying, getting into oracle cards, tarot cards, archangels, numerology, colors, shapes, you name it, before I was even 20 years old. And meditation. And then I got Reiki certified, done numerous travels worldwide, traveling with leaders of different spiritual communities and also religions and different things like that, and spiritual practice. And in a lot of indigenous culture, ancient ways, ancient modalities of healing before we had Western medicine and all these different things. So through that, what I've learned is you're always building. There's always something more to know. And that's where my motto is stay curious. Stay curious in life. Don't hold yourself in a box, in a container, without exploring or, and always going with your inner guide and what's true for you and what resonates with you. And so through that, I actually created Spiritjourneyz 13 years ago. But that's when I also went into the mortgage industry, coming from a finance industry. And so it's been really interesting to be juggling kind of a male-dominated field, finance and real estate, mortgages. And then even prior to that, the companies the company that I worked for. And what I've learned is, me having a feminine base body being, I've really oversaturated in the masculine energy and became this powerhouse, competitive, like, oh, I'm going to be number one. And I was number one for several years. And it was just like, this isn't resonating. And, that was a huge turning point where my spirituality and really tuning inward through all these different modalities that I learned. I went to India for yoga teacher training. I really enjoy, and it's important to me to like go to the source if that's available and accessible for me in the moment to learn about certain things. And so breath work, I did like a weekend warrior class. I know I'm talking a lot, but hopefully that's okay.
Oh, it's great. I mean, it just really sounds like, wow, what a huge life experience. And it sounds like a lot of your lifetime has been a spiritual journey in a nutshell, from starting to wake up and have your thoughts at age 10 and your curiosities. And you've really have, I mean, wow, you're just a shining example to be able to go out and find your own path and see what truly works for you, instead of just believing what everybody else has told you to be and conditioned you to be. And then just your sense of awareness of knowing there's so much more. I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah. And that's for everybody. Like, everyone deserves to remain open, because life is so much more beautiful when you're not so stagnant in one perspective, one way of being, or projecting things onto others. And that's where breath work really rang home and true to me, and what's like set me on fire to really pursue uplifting the consciousness of humanity in all of the places and people and experiences I've had. Breath work is like it is the fastest way I have ever experienced to connect to yourself, to your body, and to your spirit and your higher consciousness. And, movement, sound, breath, to really move the energy through. Because when we are connected to our body and we can move that energy and emotion through us at a more accelerated space, we can remove the blockages from traumas, triggers, stories, different things, to get to the like truth. And that's my purpose, and my passion is like really connecting people back to their truth, because we all have so many voices and so many things constantly, myself included, you should do this, you should do that, projections, whatever. And maybe you've misstepped in life, but coming back to that center and who you truly are, if we're living from these pain bodies, we're creating more chaos and disalignment from who we truly are. And so
those that are listening, can you explain what a pain body is? Because I don't think that's a term that a lot of people are familiar with.
So a pain body is where in your nervous system and even in your mind, you can create these neuro pathways. So say you had a troublesome childhood, maybe there was abuse in whatever form, and from a parent or from boys or girls even, and it can create this story or this neuro pathway in your mind where from a young age we didn't know how to take a look and go, oh my gosh, this is not good on my system. Who do I talk to? What do I do? Maybe you didn't have the support you deserved in that moment as a child. And this is just one example. These are formed as adults too. It's correlated with like PTSD, traumas. Basically traumas, things of lower vibrational frequencies that we energetically experience from others, whether, it is abuse or shame, guilt, over controlling parents. Like, we start to create these pathways in our mind that essentially create almost an expectation of how you're going to be perceived, how you're going to be treated in life. and it creates this energetic pathway. So as you go in life, you meet Joe Schmo you don't know, and he says something off tune, but it reminds you of something that your father said to you 22 years ago, but you've never sat with yourself to breathe through it and go like clean out the closets, if you will, because that neural pathway. And that's where triggers come in. And when we're triggered, it leads us typically back to that source pain body, that source time. So if you notice like you're being defensive or having resentment or kind of like snapping at people that you don't even know and there's not real reason for it, that's a great time to pause and go like, okay, this person doesn't know me. He was just bumped into me in the grocery store. Like, I don't need to get my panties in a twist because, it was not intentional. It was an accident. But then we can pause and go, wow, this is really like irritating me, and sit with ourselves, because that's where we can make a new choice to go correct or heal that neural pathway in your mind to start living and changing our responses to people or things, situations. So yeah, your pain bodies are those traumas stored that are unexpressed, typically not really felt or held or loved. We tend to push our emotions and our lower frequency experiences down because we're like, this is embarrassing. I don't want anyone to know this. We need to be like the Joneses. Everything's perfect, and so we suppress. And that's where a pain body is created, in essentially suppressing emotions that lead to stagnation in your energetic and neurosystem emotional body that stay with us until we address it. Same with grief. If you don't allow yourself to feel it and you're just repressing it, you're just going to compound, build until you explode or become some version of you that's totally out of alignment with who you actually are. I know that was a long.
So you feel that? No, that was perfect. So do you feel, so you get that in your breath, doing certain breath work and patterns releases those patterns and that emotional trauma?
Absolutely. I've experienced this myself firsthand, and it's a constant thing because it's life.
Yeah. So just before we get too far into breath work, can you just answer my question that I ask everyone? And what does it mean to you to radiate health and wellness?
So, number one, living from the inside outward. So, it's my truth that, we all have this inner spirit being. And the more that we live in alignment with who we truly are, our bodies just tend to release these extra stuck emotions. So to me, there's 4 bodies. There's emotional, spiritual, mental, and spiritual body. And we can look at our body and be like, oh, I have a few extra pounds, or I need to gain some muscle, or some ideal that's not real, because all of our bodies are different. And as we align to who we truly are on our inside, the ideal health and wellness is to live as the best expression of yourself. And therefore, for us to do that, we need a healthy vessel. Like, we have these meat suits. Like, this isn't who I actually am. This is just the body I was issued when I was born. And sure, there's genetics. Sure, there's old patterns. So when we go inward and we balance our inner system, our emotional, and then we can radiate, because our healthy body, we can radiate our spirit much easier because we don't have all this stagnation. When we're out of balance internally, whether emotionally or mentally, that is connected to our physical body. And our physical body is a messenger and has infinite potentiality for that infinite wisdom to come through us when we're connected to our body. And for example, like myself included, there's been times I've been disconnected from my body like even my female monthly flow. And during my first pregnancy, because I worked so much and it was like, I can't even feel my body because I'm just like, I need to be successful. I need to get the things done. That was not healthy. And so as I've stepped more and more into alignment of who I truly am versus what the world thinks I need to be, that's where I feel in my own system, I've naturally just bloomed.
So what time in your life did you feel like you really bloomed? What was going on?
Honestly, breath work, like even though I've been on this healing journey, just really even the past couple years where it's like I'm out of alignment. Like I am living fully, I was underfeeding my feminine energy. And so until I really started doing daily, and there's days I skip, life happens, whatever. But for the most part, that is like a priority to daily connect with self. And when I'm off, I'm like, okay, I just need to do a little 5-minute filler with myself, tune in, feel it, move through it.
So what does the 5-minute filler look like? What is that?
It depends in the moment what it is. If it's something with anger, I'm going to do more activated breath to release it out of my system. I'm going to pause and get that energy out so that I can create from my power center. So I'll do a lot more activating and centered breathing that looks, it's a triactive breath. And a lot of times if I'm able to, ideally go be in nature, whether it's sitting next to a tree, pulling over in a parking lot with a patch of grass. I've done this countless times, and just sitting with myself. And there's a point in your system where you're going to release and really drop from your mind into your body fully. And so there is a time on when that happens. This is why I recommend 5 minutes, because once you get past 8 minutes of active breath, your eyes shut and you're just breathing, like intentionally pushing that air through, that's where the total complete drop happens from your constructed mind into your body. That's my truth.
So do you mind telling me, just sharing a little bit about your journey? And I was looking on your website, you mentioned that you had, from working with your sister and going through thyroid cancer yourself, what tools and what led you to lean into some of these tools, and what really assisted you to heal your body and work with both pharmaceutical as well as holistic tools?
Yeah. So my sister was born hydrocephalic, which basically means water on her brain. And so she had that ailment her whole life. She couldn't ever walk. Her words were like, "Are you tired?" It was more mumbles or and she wasn't supposed to live past like 6 months, a year, 2 years old, but she lived until she was 11. And through all of her medical issues, my dad ended up finding this chiropractor who did kinesiology and muscle testing and more energy work, and he trained my dad. And so when my sister would get sick or something would come up, he would check her system energetically through muscle testing. And then my mom did a lot with like oils. We used all of that, and I saw a difference not only within her system, but we also would use a lot of like natural medicines, like, with a sore throat, we use like the ginger, and I don't even remember everything. Like we had so many different things. My mom was like a witch, almost, is how people might say it now, like using the herbs, using the land, the nourishment that's been given to us. Like we have natural medicine. That was the norm to me. I never did a yearly checkup with the doctors. When we got sick, unless it was a broken bone, my dad checked us and we would make some concoction, drink it. And like those ways and methods heal my kids quicker than any other, like going to the doctor. Because most of the time when your doctor, they have a cold, they want to give you cold syrup, or they don't really know what's wrong, or, oh, it's this again. But if you know, like, there's natural plants that even are antibiotics. Like, there's so many tools out there to us. And my parents really did do a bang up job about seeking that through. And that was a wonderful silver lining with all my sister's ailments, is that brought that type of healing and medicine into our home. And so energy work has never been foreign to me. I still do the energy treatments on my kids, on myself, and I don't even know if there's a name for this technique. I don't, but it works. And
doesn't matter, doesn't need a definition.
Exactly. It doesn't. It's just a tuning into your system, and everything is energy. And so, although I came from a super religious family, there was still that openness that there are other methods. And it did come from that as a source, and that probably is also what propelled me down this pathway of, well, if there's this, there must be more. And then with my own body, because at the time I had learned that I had cancer cells in my body, I was losing my insurance because I had literally just gone into mortgage, just straight commission, like going from this cush salary and bonus commission job that I thought I was going to retire to straight commission. I'm losing my insurance, and so it all happened so quickly. But actually, when to the doctor for my yearly visit, they found a lump on my thyroid, and they were like, this is not normal, and you need to go in and get an ultrasound. And I was like, not $400. I just quit my job and saved up to be able to start this business and be home with my kids. And so I called my dad to have him check me. And I was like, do I really need to do this? Will you just make sure there's no confused cells in my system, in my thyroid? And he actually got choked up, and he wouldn't tell me specifically that, like, yeah, you have cancer cells. It was, I just knew because my dad doesn't just like cry like that.
Cancer's not something you want to mess around with. Like, let's get that checked.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and thyroid, like, you can have nodules, you can have these things that maybe aren't a big deal. And so anyway, that urged me, because he's like, you need to go get this done, and get this done now, like ASAP. Which, of course, I was like, if my dad's saying this, like, crap. So sure enough, had the ultrasound, biopsies came back. It was like I needed to rush into surgery. Had I known what I know now, I would have done more, because I was in such a fear mindset of like, oh my gosh, cancer, like, I've got to do this. I don't want to have chemo. Like, what do I do with my body? And it's a really scary, scary, scary place to like navigate through and from. Like, it's devastating on your
it is hard. It just puts you in this place of, I don't know how many more tomorrows there's going to be, if there is a tomorrow, and that state of, I have no idea what my future is. I don't know what this monster is inside of me, how big it is, what it's going to do, and how it's going to affect the rest of my life and those that I love.
Exactly.
It's a tough place to be.
And you go, like, am I going to survive this? What about my kid? Your mind, you get trapped in your mind when that happens. And so if I'd known now what I did and how connected I am with my body now through the tool with breathwork, and of course other things, but that being the most powerful tool, I would have shifted things on how I went about it. And I pumped so much fear into like, okay, let's get it out now. I'm losing insurance, instead of like taking a step back and utilizing my own body and its infinite intelligence to really let me know what my body needs by asking it, not saying that, like, obviously there are times when these other medicines are needed, but within my system, like, I got my whole thyroid removed where I really could have kept some of it, but my doctor was like, it's common in the next 5 years that this is going to come back, so you might as well just save yourself getting it removed in 5 years. 24 years old, I was 25, getting your thyroid removed, and I've been on hormone pills ever since to regulate my system. I don't like to look at life that I have regrets, but I'm like, dang, I really wish I would have been tuned into my system so I could have asked my system and my body like what it needed, because I do know, and I have seen results within people's all sorts of different diagnoses getting better through Reiki, breathwork, like a culmination of energy and natural medicines that our bodies, a lot of us are lacking. Almost every single human is lacking because of how, production of food is. And that could get us down a whole other rabbit hole. But like,
yes,
yeah. So, but now, because after that, that's when I really was like, Reiki, yoga, breath, like, I'm going to do everything and learn, because I want to be prepared, not just for myself, but those I love, my family, my friends, anyone I can, aid in, like, pausing before we make a drastic choice like that, some altering our bodies, and this vessel, this meat suit that is pushing me through life. I would love if I still had my thyroid. If I don't have to buy a freaking pill every 30 days supply, like, it's not ideal.
It goes to what we were talking about earlier. You don't know what you don't know. At that time, you didn't know. I mean, you still don't know. If you had made that choice at that time not to have your full thyroid removed,
yeah,
who knows? You may have had the rest of it removed 2 years later. You may have gone the rest of your life just fine. You just don't know. So you get to be at peace with the choices that you have already made, and
Absolutely.
just move forward from there and forgive yourself for any past regrets that you may feel. And that's where I see where you're getting the breath work and be able to just release those traumas and those regrets and anything that's not serving you to be your highest potential, your greatest self at this time.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't look at anything that's happened in my life as, it's all lessons and learning. And that was a big catalyst in me taking my health back, because your throat chakra, speaking your truth. I was going through a really challenging time, and my marriage was coming to an end at the time. I wasn't speaking my truth. But that's spot on, because even back then, maybe I would have like sat with myself and been like, no, it needs to come out. We have no idea. But what it did do going through that experience was propel me forward on this pathway of like full embodied health and wellness, where it's like, not just what is this meat suit, how is it doing, but like all of the mental, spiritual, emotional, physical body, and having that balance between all of them. And that's where the magic is pausing within your own system to go, okay, mental body, let's fill you out. Spiritual body, where are we? Mental body, like, oh, thinking thought patterns aren't in check. What do I need to look at? Like, I'm not spending every day of my life like, okay, what's wrong today? What do I need to? It's as things come up, learning your system, let going of the past, giving honor to the things that happen, even if they're not ideal, like not having a thyroid anymore. That's not ideal. However, now I'm on this pathway, and I know this is the pathway Like, I'm on the mission, I'm birthing the mission, I'm on my life path. And that was what needed to happen to push me this direction to the degree it did. So, yeah.
So, what is, I mean, as we talk about tuning into ourselves and our own bodies, what is the greatest tool that you have to, I mean, say you got another diagnosis of cancer, how would you tune into that part of your body to know what the best choices are for you to make considering?
I would call one of the people that I trust with either walking me through a breath session. I would make sure that I cleanse my emotional system, because if I'm living through that structured mind or nervousness, my spirit can't give me the answers, because I'm blocking it through fear or whatever. So I would sit in reflection, but I would ask someone else, because of me knowing how traumatic that is on your system to even hear the words, "You have this diagnosis." I would breathe through it first. And then from there, knowing that I am in a grounded, regulated state and my body is able to give me the answers, I would probably seek muscle testing to ask what my body needs, and then go from there, whatever pathway that looks like. And sometimes it's something that you're like, what even is that? Like, just a word pops in, or you just know, it's that intuition. Um, I would shut the structured mind out first and foremost and tune in. But I would ask for someone else to facilitate that for me, be a guide. Be a guide on,
Just to assist you to get out of that monkey mindedness, the emotions, and to be centered and
yes.
grounded.
And if it's just on my own system where I'm like, okay, like, obviously I'm a trained facilitator, like, I can walk myself through a breathwork session, but there's so much more power in group sessions and in dyads, where it's back and forth. And when we are in groups, we amplify the energy. And also, it's easier, on my system at least, if someone's guiding me through it, especially if it's that traumatic of a situation. So yeah, I would silence the mind, tune into my body, and go from there first and foremost.
Yeah, it's such a personal, unique situation, and nobody's the same. Nobody else. It's like when I got my breast cancer, I got to make the choices that were right for me, even though I had other people telling me, oh, you need to do the chemo stuff, you need to do the radiation, you should do this, you should eat that, you should juice 100 carrots and drink that each day until you turn green or orange and become an Oompa Loompa. Like, some of the things, just, I wanted to enjoy life. And it's such a personal decision of what you do with that, and not to allow it to just consume the rest of your life afterwards, but to be able to get to that point where you're at peace. And yeah, that was a learning lesson. That was something for me to grow, pursue, and like what you have done from that experience, you have been able to just gain this passion to inspire others and put yourself out there to create more health and healing, and give tools through breath work or Reiki or whatever it is to allow people to connect to their own selves to make those right choices for them. So amazing. Thank you for being your power.
Well, and I'm proud of you for being in tune with yourself enough to shut down all the other voices. Because yeah, with illness, or you're having a baby, or people give all their different opinions, and it's like, that's the key, is like, okay, I know there's these 50 million things that I can do, there's infinite potentiality and options, but what resonates, what is my highest authority in my system telling me I need? And so that's where you can really be at peace with, like, okay, I tuned in, I shut all this other stuff, and even if someone's mad at me that I didn't make that choice, doesn't matter. It's not in alignment with me. It's that empowerment of self.
So one of the things that I've learned from being here in Hawaii and with breathwork is, I mean, just in dissecting the word aloha, ha is breath, which is translated as life, because that's the first thing that you do as you come through the womb is you go, it's even before the baby screams, it's that ha, it's breath, it's life. And then on the total opposite end, it's the very last thing that shuts, I mean, the last breath of life. It's what transcends you to whatever you feel you get to go after you leave this, what did you call it? The bodysuit?
Yeah.
Meat body. Yes. Yes. So I don't know. Do you know much about like the Hawaii and the ha and what that means? I don't know a whole lot.
So
it's just interesting.
I've been to Hawaii so many times. It's literally like the heartbeat of my soul. I'm like, I need to go there. And their tradition out there, I don't even want to speak to it because it's like so sacred but there's so much intentionality with all like the words, the meanings, and a lot of it is that ancient indigenous type of connection. Right now, it's not coming to me because even there's mahalo, when you break that word down as well. Now I'm going to have to look this up and refresh because I haven't been to Hawaii in like 3 years and it's a problem, Christine. It's a problem.
Yeah, well, you and Marissa got to get yourselves over here.
It's out of alignment with me.
The culture and I've only seen it very few times. It's very, like you say, it's just a very respected thing. So I don't think it's overly done. Instead of handshakes or even, the little kisses on the cheek or anything, their way of greeting someone used to be forehead to forehead. You would touch and you would extend that breath. So in that breath of life from one to another, it was like the essence of energy that you were incorporating, which is also a part of aloha. It's an energy, it's a vibration, it's a connection with each other. And I hope I'm not misinterpreting any of it either, because I'm not Hawaiian. I haven't taken the language, but I definitely have a deep respect for the land and the words, and there is a connection. And I mean, just like a Sanskrit language where there's vibration within the very words, I get aloha, and some of those words are the same.
And the forehead, man, I'm like, I need to go grab my book because I have a whole book on this. When I was in New Zealand, they also, the Maori, and I'm sure but the Maori tribe, that is their honor, their greeting. You put your forehead and like nose together, and it is that connection of my soul. Almost, I don't want to like say namaste because it's even like deeper, because you're like, I am connecting. My crown, my light, my soul sees and acknowledges your soul, and we are one. It's that unity and that oneness and togetherness that like we are not separate. And I'm so glad you brought this up because yes to all of it. Now I'm like, I need to go down a rabbit hole. I need to come out there, refresh, because I'm like, why aren't these words here? Like, anyway, it's been a while since I was out there, but that was one of the greatest experiences of my life, just with like seeing the land, traveling with all of the people, like, and learning about those different ways of connection and honoring the divine within the other person and that wholeness and oneness. So it's, yes, we should bring this to like the states of things, like the other 49, because we need more of that unity and connection and love and wholeness.
Well, and it's coming, and that's what we're doing. That's what this is about right now. So, on that note, I like to ask, is there any messages that you just feel like there's somebody out there in podcast land that is just waiting for this message that you have to give them?
Feel like what's coming through for me is something to ask yourself when you're sitting, where am I listening from? Am I listening from my mind, my ego, my structured expectation? Am I listening to my body and what it's telling me? Am I connected to my soul, to my inner light, to my spirit? And from there, because anything getting those aligned does complete that overall health and wellness. And so that's a really solid question. It's even a great journal entry, especially if you're like triggered, is where am I listening from? Close your eyes. My mind, my body, my soul, and just see what comes through. And if there is any kind of disconnect, that's where it's like, okay, I could explore myself a little bit more and stay curious about my own system. So, number one, stay curious. And it's not about the answers, it's about the questions. What are we asking ourselves?
Love it. And then just be able to stay connected. And it's more, the answers come in more of a form of feeling. Or at least that's how it is for me. Maybe some people get words, get pictures.
Exactly. There's, again, infinite ways.
And Natalia, will you tell everyone how they can reach out to you, where they can find you, any resources that you have? I know you had some retreats coming up. So tell us about how to get a hold of all of that info.
So all my contact information's on my website, which is Spiritjourneyz with a Z on the end. So spiritjourneyz.com. Through there, you can book a time to talk to me. I'll have my podcast link there soon. I just launched my own podcast actually, and different links there, ways to contact me. Different events are also going to be in there. The retreat that I'll be doing, the bigger retreat I'm doing next, will be spring 2025, either in Moab or Sedona. I'm working on final details of dates and location for that. So that's not listed yet, but it will be. So if people are wanting to do a deep dive on really embodying, that's a possibility. Just save my website and, or find me on Facebook. Natalia Meyerhoffer. That's Meyerhoffer. Gotta love the German names. And Instagram is the.Nataliarose. So I'll usually post events, things on there if people want to follow me. And again, my contacts really on all those platforms. Spiritjourneyz will be doing monthly women's gatherings over Zoom with breathwork, just bringing the community of women together to share wins, to go through some embodiment each week, to tune into our own collective visions, healing, whatever it is. Show up, whatever you're carrying, and you're going to have a space to sit with yourself and look within. So again, that will all be posted on those different platforms as those roll out. And then there will be in-person gatherings once a month, typically going with the moon cycle, whether a full moon or a new moon. So if any of those things tickle anyone's fancy, then check out those sites and you can get a hold of me.
And that's great. You're doing it virtual. So really anybody anywhere, if they're out in the middle of the ocean in Hawaii or in your backyard in Utah, they can be a part of that. So awesome that you are able to extend and spread yourself really worldwide. So
exactly.
Natalia,
I love them.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on today. It's been a pleasure and been able to learn a lot about just breath work. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thank you for having me. This is a very loaded topic. I could talk for days. So maybe part 2 to come after people digest this.
Yeah, I get that. Your throat chakra there, as far as having thyroid cancer, it has not suffered with your voice, or your voice has not suffered.
True. It did. At times it has, but you're right. I love it. Well, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Let's expect.
Thank you for joining this fun conversation with Natalia. As always, if you know someone who could benefit from the messages shared in this podcast, please share it with them. You never know how far your ripple can go. Together, we can create a healthier, happier world. And please follow and subscribe to stay updated on the latest episodes. You can also check out my website, radiatehealthandwellness.com, for resources, recipes, blog posts, and information on my health and wellness coaching. You can also contact me at radiatehealthandwellness.com or email radiate.hw@gmail.com. Mahalo for tuning in today, and until next time, tune in to your well-being and radiate health and wellness in all that you do.